Yes, we have done this course before. The art of prayer, what is it? It is a workshop that I've created specifically for the purpose of helping people understand or learn how to really use prayer in a very powerful and potent way. Because you see, for most people, usually when you see the average person, also on cinema, on television, when people pray, it's usually very simple. Oh God, I need a car, please, or I need help, or help me with this, or I want this and that. It's like usually we pray like it's a shopping list, but that's not a really powerful prayer. That's just, God, give me stuff. But there's much more ancient, powerful ways of prayer that when you know how to formalize and use energy in a tantric way, this will be a tantric approach to prayer, then the prayer will be much more powerful, and then it becomes a real art, a real form of spiritual practice. And that's what I wanted to share with people. And in the art of prayer, that's exactly what we teach. There's specific techniques. We learn different kinds of prayer, and it's not really a prayer in the traditional way. Because many people, when they hear prayer, they're thinking religion. Oh my goodness, it's again religion story and I don't like it and so on. But it's not at all a religious, specifically religious type of prayer, and we don't need to feel allergic to this sort of thing. Prayer is a natural born right of the human soul to interact with the divine. And we can do that in a tantric way by adding energy, by adding various, let's call it spiritual approach or technologies even, that make the prayer a very spiritual act that can bring about fast, efficient, and powerful results. So that's what the art of prayer is meant to do. So when you're doing Tantra massage, you may feel that when you're focusing on something, chakra or something else in the person you're massaging, you feel it on yourself. And what does that mean? That's good. We're showing that you have some level of identification, which is necessary. We call it samyama. It's necessary in this kind of work of massage. It's done in other aspects of spirituality, but in massage we use it well. And it also shows that you are starting to resonate on that level with the person, and it will probably, if you do it right, will give you more and more authentic sensations of what's going on. It's like an indicator, what's going on with the person that you're working with. So all in all, it's a good experience what you're having. It's just something to get more refined. You can refine it more and get better in sensations, and even identifying, even analyzing what's going on with that person on that level, and then working on that level astrally, which is what we do. So when we're saying you are controlling your mind, who is the you? Well, first of all, we're talking at the level of the mind. The mind can control the mind. So the mind has the ability to be, to a degree, aware of its own activity. Of course, it's not ultimately the mind, but still, with the mind, we can work with the mind. Those are the tools that we have. But if you're asking me what is aware of the mind, what is behind all that, then we know that this is the self. There is in the human being something which is even beyond the mind, which we call in simple English the self. Some would call it the soul. In the Indian tradition, you would call it the jivatman. And that part of the self, it's actually your true self, is a witness, an inner witness, something which is made of pure awareness, that is able to observe even the mind in its activities. And as you become more and more spiritual, you get to the point that you are fully aware of the mind's activities, and by doing that you can even surpass the mind and become self-aware, and which is the objective of spiritual evolution, really. Then it would be, is there anything in Tantra massage we should be aware of that might cause issues or problems? So what does it mean? Yes, there could be a variety of things. If the person who is receiving the massage has various problems, blockages, either health problems, either the person has been very impure for whichever reasons, because of using too many chemicals, pharmaceutical companies, maybe abusing products, that is, abusing themselves with drugs, drinking lots of alcohol, or just eating very badly, then the person will have all kinds of limitations with their ability to work with energy. And then if we push the energy for that person, it may be that for some people it would be too much. And in certain areas of the body there might be pain, discomfort, or the person might feel, which is a classic thing, that they're starting to have purification effect, because we're flushing their energies through their chakras and through their channels of energy. And if they're loaded with impurities, which is a common thing these days, many people have a lot of impurities, then they will have purification effects, which means maybe they'll feel nausea. Maybe they'll start burping a lot. Maybe they'll start having the need to go and have diarrhea. Maybe they will have fever or sweating. It could be all kinds of reactions of the body which tries to eliminate the toxins which are now pushed more to the surface. And when that happens, it can sometimes be a bit too much. So it's the responsibility of the person giving the massage to be aware of this and not just keep massaging and pushing the person over the edge until it becomes maybe dangerous or maybe problematic. Usually it's not that dangerous. The person will stop anyway. But it's good if you're aware of it as a therapist more in advance. You start noticing signals, the person is doing this or coughing or something's happening. And you say, okay, tell me how you're doing. And you're trying to interact. And eventually, maybe take a break or do gradually. Because the ideal is that because the human body can only eliminate toxins a certain quantity per unit of time. So we don't want to overdo it because then we're pushing the purification channels of the body. So we just do it little by little. That's the idea. We just take it slowly, we do a little bit and then give a break. Let the person recover and then we do a more purification a little bit. And little by little, we can conquer a big situation, like you're climbing a mountain. Step by step, you reach to the top eventually. You don't go once. Is there an importance of choosing the music according to the need of the one who gives the massage? Not so much, because this is not a session where I'm trying to fix myself or to support myself so much. Usually the choice of music is music that we know or has been given as a recommendation from us to you guys as graduates. That will help the massage session to be harmonious, calm, and basically promote more relaxation so the receiver can go deeper and deeper. I'm not using music just to support what I need as the giver. For example, if I'm a person who's about to do a massage session, but I'm feeling a bit flat or my energy is low, then probably what would help me right now is very strong sublimation music, intense music. If I put that for a massage session, the receiver will say, what the heck is that? It's so intense that ba-bum, ba-bum. I'm trying to relax here and get a massage, so it will be very counterproductive. Yeah, it might help you. The problem is it might not be what the person needs who is receiving. And that's why it's recommended that the one who gives a massage will do what they need outside of a session to take care of their own needs, spiritually, emotionally, physically, yogically, whatever is necessary. And then you come to the massage focused on the need of the receiver, not what you need right now. Oh, right now I feel I should. No, it's not relevant. We're using music to help the session to become the ideal session and not for personal, benefits of any kind. Intuition could come from different places, actually. One of the most common ways by which people feel intuition is from Svadhisthana chakra, the second chakra, where we can find a lot of this fantasy, imagination, creativity, and sometimes some intuition can also come from Svadhisthana chakra. But that kind of intuition is not always reliable because it's coming from a lower chakra where the emotions rule. Like people go and they feel like my intuition is that I should have an ice cream, right? I really have an intuition that I should have an ice cream right now. And there's a lot of voices in your head saying, yes, you're absolutely right. But it doesn't mean that it is a very valuable intuition. But intuition becomes much more spiritual and real, as in helpful, when it comes from the higher chakras. There can be some intuition that comes from the heart chakra, when the heart opens up and there's intuition which is not really a clear message or do this or this is recommended, but more of a heartful empathy that manifests, and you may feel like empathic in a certain way and it gives you a kind of intuitive sense. But the real intuition, the classic way intuition really manifests is from Vishuddha chakra. That's where we have real intuition. So when a person develops more and more Vishuddha chakra, then intuition will become much more spiritual, much more accurate. It can even be intuition of future events. And that's why, for example, prophets would have a strong Vishuddha chakra. That's very much a prophet type of thing. So that would be the ideal intuition to listen to and even to follow if that chakra is active enough. There can even be some intuition for Ajna chakra, but then it's not anymore intuition, it's more like knowledge, because now the mind is open and you don't need to have an intuition which is like it feels like. No, it's clear. You see it, it's there, and that's it. You can call it intuition, but It's more like clear knowledge. I hope this answers the question. Can Kundalini be opened by massage or some other external approach or factor, or you can only do it by yourself? So as I explained earlier about Kundalini, Kundalini doesn't just work in the full sense of Kundalini because of various activities of the daily life. If that would be the case, then everyone, like a very large percentage of the population, would already have strong Kundalini access, success, rising, whatever. But it's not the case. So what we have is a situation where people may have sometimes some minor activation of Kundalini, which for them, because of their limited abilities, feels like a big deal, a lot of rocking and shaking, and they think it was a major Kundalini activation, but it's just because their structure is so untrained that for them, even a very, very minor activation of Kundalini felt like a big earthquake. But that, unfortunately, will not give hardly any spiritual result whatsoever, except maybe an inflation of the ego, but not more than that. So that creates a lot of confusion there. So how can Kundalini be activated? Tantra massage? No. Unless we do what we discussed earlier in the advanced course here, where you do a little bit of visualization the way I explained, and then maybe it will support a minor push of Kundalini that may support as a slight trigger for the increase of energy that we want to achieve during massage. Will that make a person enlightened? No chance. Will that create any major change in the person? Probably not. So it's only as an additional spiritual kick to get the energy going. That's as much as it does. That's the only reason we're talking about it here. Can it be done through lovemaking? Definitely. If the partner that you make love with is a very experienced tantric master and he or she are able to bring your Kundalini to move through very, very skillful control over the sexual energy on their side. That's very rare. Again, unfortunately, tantric practitioners of such a degree, unlike popular thinking that, you know, in the New Age environment, everybody's a tantric master because they read a book or something, but that's not the case at all. So it's rare. I know tantric masters who can do it, but it's very rare. And in modern times, it's even controversial because who is training by making love with people? It sounds like a criminal or something. So people usually are not very open for this sort of thing, and I don't blame them. There's enough, fraud in this business, so it is what it is. Other than that, self-work, if the person is trained by a proper methodology of Kundalini, by authentic Tantra, then definitely that is one of the most obvious ways by which Kundalini can be trained along the years to become a very powerful thing within the human being. As for, can somebody just come and trigger another person's Kundalini? Again, very, very possible if that person is a guru. This is called Shaktipat. When the guru has the perception spiritually that he or she should help the student with some momentary rising of Kundalini or some type of support, then the guru might be able to do it. And he can do it like some gurus did it by touch, others did it by look from the eyes, some did it even without looking or touching by some spiritual whatever support from afar. Others could do it in other ways. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa at some point to some of his students, one of his students, not many, just one time he did it, he looked at him and felt compassion and he activated the person's Kundalini by kicking him. He just went bum, and the person had a Kundalini rising for, I don't know, some period of time, and then that person felt, okay, stop it, I cannot do it anymore. People think Kundalini is fun, and it can be very intense for the uninitiated, and then the person would just say, this is too much. You feel like it's insane. What happens inside you, it leads to insanity if you are not prepared. But again, unless it's New Age, everybody's a guru. But otherwise, it's really not a game. Kundalini is a serious business, and that's why a guru would do it only when he or she feels that the student is ready and they need to receive this spiritual gift to move forwards in the spiritual evolution. Sri Yukteswar did it for Yogananda one time. When Yogananda was struggling with his meditation, he said, come here. Yogananda refused. He said, I'm meditating, don't disturb me. He said, I know how you're meditating, come. He was not meditating very successfully. And then when he stood in front of Yukteswar, he just hit him in the chest, did it like bum on the chest, on the heart, and he went to a cosmic experience, and his Kundalini was rising and all the rest. So sometimes it can be done by a guru. Can an average person do that to you? Very unlikely. It's very, very rare that that would happen not through a guru. So I hope that answers the question.